Hello everyone, and welcome to our monthly Mastermind Tips and Tricks webinar series. Glad you could join us. Today is a continuation of last month's webinar of user questions. Our Mastermind report writers, Rob Makalek and Chris Thomas, will be discussing Mastermind quick tips to help assist you to get the most from your Mastermind. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the question dialog on GoToMeeting. So let's go ahead and get started. Take it away, fellas.
All right, thanks Carnegie, and this is Rob Makalek. I'm typically the host of our monthly user meetings, and I'm glad to welcome Chris Thomas on with us this morning. Chris is our actually a very long-time Mastermind user, and also long-time report writer for our for Mastermind clients. One of the options that you have with Mastermind is to have us write reports for you or do data management work for you using the Mastermind tools. And so the idea there is, put the expert together with the expert tool, get the work done very quickly and expeditiously, and know that it was done right. And so that's just one of your options working with Mastermind. We're going to jump right into our tips and tricks because we have a long list of things that we want to go through with you today. And I'm going to put it on the first slide here and switch over to Gold Mine. Oh, sorry, actually I probably should leave that slide on for just a moment and let Chris take it over. So Chris, I think you've got...
I'm not seeing the slide, Rob.
Okay, let's see what's...
There we go.
There we go. Okay, so I believe you have control, Chris, and you can... So we're going to jump right in and have Chris talk about short menus here. And I just want to make sure that are you able to switch between screens, Chris?
I am not.
Okay, let's go to, I think I can do it here. All right. Now I think you've got mouse control though. There we go.
Okay. We're going to talk a bit about the launch dialog. As you saw, I went up and just went to Mastermind and did the launch. And we wanted to talk about some of the things that you can do. There are short menus attached in the launch dialog. So I can change my default folder. I can hide the subfolder, create a new folder. There's a lot of things to do in Mastermind, and oftentimes what you just need to do is explore. I
did want to say, Chris, on the short menu under the folders, I see a lot of users when we go in to help them who have not actually set a default starting folder, and that actually really helps. So that if you just right-click on any one of the folders that shows up in your folder tree there, that's the one which will come up when you launch Mastermind. So when you just launch Mastermind, it'll automatically go to your selected default folder and show you all of the files that you have within that folder, all the Mastermind reports that you've created. And typically what you want to have is a submenu or a tree, a folder tree, excuse me, beneath that one that you set as your default. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah. No problem. You can sort your files into, again, I can't get back into it, into subfolders. Simply by dragging and dropping your files over into the folders. So if you've got a file in one folder and you wanted another one, you can simply drag it over. You don't have to save as or whatever. It's very easy to work with. Also, if there is a report that you want to open but you want to leave your dialog still open, what you can do is you can hold down the Alt key and click on your report. The dialog stays open in the background and you can use it again to launch another report. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Rob?
Next, yep, go ahead and click back down there. Okay, so that's organizing and launching reports. I really encourage you to use that sorting of files into subfolders as a way, especially for those of you who have more than just a handful of Mastermind reports. You can sort them by department, sort them by user, sort them by the purposes for which you have those reports. If you're doing that just on your own machine. excuse me, if you're doing it in on your own workstation, you may have your own reports sorted that way, or you may be sorting them out on the network. Very commonly, people put a MasterMine reports folder within the Goldmine application folder, and that one is accessible by everybody, so that all of your users can actually have their own subfolders within that, and that's a good way to organize them. Okay, so next slide. So now we're going to move on to tips and tricks relating to actually creating reports, and I'm going to take the first ones here. So, let's see. Oh no, Chris, you're going to do the first ones, right? So we're going to talk. Chris is going to do Fields View, talking about Fields View, showing Goldmine field names and sorting fields in the field dialog. So I'll switch back over to here, and we'll go right to the Create dialog. And take it away, Chris.
Okay. Many of you use this on a regular basis to create reports, but don't necessarily know what it is that what's going on. So there are field views in Goldmine, and we can change the view to the correct field view in Goldmine simply by clicking down on the field view access tool, and then you get the different views that are available to you, and that will change what the labels are according to what your Goldmine labels are. If you look in your Goldmine, you can see that there are these are the three main views in Goldmine. And we've used record typing here, so when we're on a particular type of record, it's going to show one of these views. And
so you get that list by right-clicking in the top area in Goldmine, and you're not going to have the same fields views that we have. These are the ones that we have set up in this demo system. You'll have your own unique ones. And the point is, depending upon which one of those is active, that determines the actual labels that show up on your fields. Sorry, Chris.
No, that's perfectly right. So if you're not seeing the labels that you're expecting, it may be because you're in the wrong view, and that's a way to fix that. Go to the correct view. You can also, if you want, you can see what Goldmine's calling this field. So by clicking on the treasure box, you can see that these are the fields that the names that Goldmine is using. Key 1, for instance, is record type in our database, and sometimes you don't know that, so you can very quickly and easily switch back and forth. You can also sort. Now what this will do is it allows you to reorder the fields for the drill down, and when you click on this, you're going to get this thing that reminds you, click on the name, not on the checkbox, and you can click the order in which you want them. So if I wanted to see state first, and then I wanted to see source, contact, company, that's all I do. Now when I do my drill down, they're going to come out in that order, and I can freeze it in place simply by clicking on the double arrows again, and now my sort is frozen.
And that's a feature that's really important to people, especially, we get the question a lot, can I set up my drill down so that the fields that I care about are the ones that are visible, and the other ones that I don't really care about are invisible? I mean, ideally people say, I just don't want them on my drill down sheet. But the sort of second best and easiest way to go about that is to just move the fields that you want to the left side of your drill down sheets by sorting the columns this way.
Okay. Now, as you're selecting your additional fields that you want to have in the report, those that aren't already checked, you can put in alphabetical order simply by clicking this button, and they're going to be in alphabetical order. But when you first do that, they're in alphabetical order, and they're sorted by the table that they're in. So these are my primaries, and then the C2 are my user-defined. If you would prefer that they be sorted together, because maybe you don't know which are user-defined and which are primary, you can simply right-click, select sort the contact fields together, and now I've got C1 and C2 intermixed, but it's alphabetical. So it makes it very easy to find the field name if you don't know which table it's in. Okay.
I think that's back to me.
Rob?
Okay. So and then these other three parts I'm going to talk about: preferences, the default settings, searching for templates, and actually dealing with templates generally with MasterMine. So first, preferences. So a lot of people don't know that we've added, and this isn't actually very recent. We've had these in here as options for some time. I really like these default options that we have here. This is on the Create dialog under Preferences. So when you're creating a new report, these are preferences that you have available, and when you check these on, obviously they stay as the default setting for every new report that you create. The first one is hide page fields set to all. That basically means that rather than have that long list of fields at the top of every report when you create it, here, let me pull in an example of, well, in this case we don't have them, but the long list of fields that you would normally see at the top of a MasterMine report, rather than have them all up here, they are all hidden, meaning that they're in the field list over here, so that they can be dragged in and used if you want to, but they don't occupy the top half of your Excel screen. I like to have that one checked on myself because I think that makes it just a lot cleaner when you're starting out, and I always know I can get the fields that I need from the list. Hiding page fields with no valid items. So that's an option that says if you've got fields that actually have no items within them, and that does happen. Sometimes you've got a user-defined field in Goldmine, for instance, that has actually no data in it, then there's no point having that field show up here in the list. That would automatically hide them. Of course, that would be among the ones that were hidden if you check the top one, but if you don't check the top one, that at least is sort of a secondary benefit there. The third option here, turn off subtotals for all fields. That's kind of a big one for people who typically do not summary reports, but reports that have line listing reports where you're dragging a number of fields in. If you want, by default, so I'll say it the other way. By default, when you create a pivot table, every field has subtotaling turned on. This option actually says turn off the subtotaling by default, and but it still allows you to add subtotaling if you want to on any individual field. And typically, if you're doing a MasterMine report where you've got one field on the left and then 1, 2, 3, 4 fields or something to the right of it, you might want subtotaling by the leftmost one, but probably not by each one of the fields that are in there. So you can quickly drag in 5 fields, turn on subtotaling on the leftmost one, and you're done, rather than the other way around, which is to drag in each one, and as you do it, turn off the subtotaling for each one. So that's another good feature there. Substitute blank space for blank in field items. So that would be the case where many of you are probably familiar with the fact that some fields don't have a value, and let's just find out if we've got one here that, well, these are all sales. Hoping that I've got some fields here that are actually blank. I don't think I do because I've got a very nice demo data set here. Oh, I know where I'll have some. I'll take the region field. Here, so in this case, we actually do have that option is turned on, and what it does is, if you're probably already familiar, sometimes when you look at a MasterMine field, because you want to change the selections within it, you'll see nothing after the top one, and you'll see the word blank in parentheses after the last one. The reason for that is that for those both being in there is that SQL actually stores those kinds of, it differentiates between a field that used to have a value and doesn't have one now versus one that's never had a value in it. SQL, the database engine, makes that distinction, and so that's why that shows up differently in a MasterMine report as 2 different flavors of nothing in the field. But if you want that to show up in your report as being essentially the same thing, check that default box on, and they'll come through looking like this. So there still are 2 items there, but one of them is actually that's a space bar, and the other one is literally null. So there's a slight differentiation between the 2, but visually it looks exactly the same. So that's what that one does. And then the last one here is use logo. That basically means we have a logo file, a JPEG file on our system that's findable by all of our findable by all of our MasterMine users. And we say by checking this box on, whenever we create a new report, that means that that logo will show up in the printed version of this report. So if I go back in here and look at the print preview, which is, by the way, another one of the things you can do is go into the print previews here. I can just show you what that report would look like, and it turns out we did not actually turn it on. When we created this report, that logo thing wasn't on. But you would see the MasterMine logo just up here on the left on every one of our printed reports. By the way, this page setup is a really nice feature in part that people are sometimes not familiar with. It's the standard Excel page setup, but it's got a few settings automatically turned on. So, for example, it's got the fit to one page view, which actually makes this a little bit easier to work with to get to what you actually want for when it prints out. That's all I'm going to say about those default items. What came next? Okay, searching for templates. Okay, so then I'm just going to talk about how we do templates. So searching for templates, that's something that, again, in the create dialog, many people have been using MasterMine for years, know how easy it is to just create a report when you need one. There are templates built into MasterMine, and you can use keyword searching to find the reports that you want. So if you want one that includes email addresses, for example, put in the word email, and you can do it with either a dash or without a dash. It'll find the whole list either way. And this basically finds all the MasterMine templates that are associated with email addresses. Or if you want to do reporting on, I like last, because that does reporting on the last completed activity associated with any given account. So that allows you to do some really interesting reports, records for which the last contact is more than 90 days, that kind of stuff. So that's searching for templates. It is also possible to save templates, and essentially what that means is once you pick a report that you want to create, and I'll just choose one kind of randomly here. So if I was going to do a pending sale report, but I wanted to also check on a bunch of fields, sort the fields, and have that be a starting point that I could come back to again, I can hit Save as Template, name it my unique name, and then have that within my list of templates over here where I can just check Use Template, find the one that I had created before, and launch from there, or select it and actually choose any additional fields that would go with it, and that would be a saved template. Now, the other thing that I wanted to say about this is relates to that, and that is really every MasterMine report at the time you create it, in other words, at the time you create the Excel workbook that you're going to be making from it, it is in fact another template. Without your having to do any extra steps, every report can be made into other reports simply by doing Save As and then rearranging the fields again and saving it. Whenever you do Save As a MasterMine report, remember to always use the XLSM type of Excel workbook, which is Excel with embedded macros, because MasterMine has embedded macros. So if you save as an XLSM, that workbook just branches off from where you were. You don't have to go back and recreate things that you have done in the past. And that's something that I think is pretty important, in part because a lot of times people think that to use MasterMine you have to be able to know everything that there is to do in this create dialog. And the truth is, if somebody in the organization knows how to use the create dialog and can create new original reports and share them, then other users can all branch off from the original ones, and including using those original ones as templates, and can make what they need to do. This is especially useful if now that version 7 of MasterMine allows you to add fields or delete ones. Chris, why don't you go ahead and take over on the next one? And let's see. So let me give you. So go ahead, Chris, and I'll switch you over. And I'm going to have to run away for just a moment. Chris, are you there? So, oh, sorry, no. So start with this one, and I'm going to switch over.
Switch me.
Okay, and got your list. I'll be back as quick as I can.
Okay. Sometimes, you know, if you've been working with a report, you don't realize, for a lot of people, that the leftmost field is the field that is the primary sort on any pivot table. It seems, once you've been doing it for a while, it seems very intuitive, but at first you may not realize that. So anytime that you're working in a report, the primary field for sort is left, and it'll sort left to right. So I'm going to sort on region, on year, and then on month. And whatever I want to use as my sort, I have to put in the left-hand column of the report. That's how a pivot table works. So when you are working with a report and you're not getting the results you're looking at, make sure that you're sorting correctly left to right, and that'll probably fix the problem. We talked earlier about, I've lost control here. We've talked earlier about subtotaling on a report and turning it off. And we've turned it the default so it doesn't come on automatically, but as Rob said, sometimes you're going to want to have a subtotal. So I just right-clicked here, I turned subtotaling on for region, and the reason why I did that is because I want to drill down on my Midwest region, and I want to see all the totals in it. So what I can do is I can simply drill down, and when I double-click on it, it's going to open up my drill-down page with the detail that includes every field that I had included in the Create dialog. They're all here. Also, they're in the order that Rob showed you how to change the order, or maybe I did. One of us showed you how to change the order of the report. But they're in the order that we selected at the time that we created the report. And from here, if I want to see more information, I can simply double-click on this item, and it will take me into my goldmine record at that item. So now I can go back and I can look at this item in more detail if there is something that I have wanted to see because this piqued my interest in that particular account. So I can review very quickly all my sales activities, and if I want to know more about it, maybe I'm a sales manager and I want to see more about one of these accounts, I simply double-click on it. It takes me to the record in Goldmine, and I can see the notes and everything else about it. Another thing that we can do with this is we can create groups in Goldmine, and creating the groups is a very simple function. Right now, I've got all of these items that I selected here, and this is my, if I remember, it was my Midwest group. So if I wanted to make a group of all of my Midwest sales items, I can simply use MasterMine. I can go up here and create a Goldmine, click on Create a Goldmine Group. I'm going to call this Midwest. And I can sort the members in that group by different methods. In this case, I'm just going to leave it like this. When I click OK, you can see down at the bottom it's counting up here as it creates my group. And it created my group in Goldmine.
To be clear, it was a group of companies that have sales, companies that are in the Midwest that have forecast sales.
Now, it's
right?
only
So
going to
put
have one item per company in there.
Yeah.
You could have 5 sales to a company, but it's only going to put one item per company in there. So you may have seen that it said 21 unique. So if I were to sort this by company here, you'd see that many of these companies have multiple entries in them. So Chambers Assembly, for instance, would only be in the report one time, and Advanced Products would be in there one time. So that's the quick and dirty way to make a group in Goldmine. And the cool thing about it is you can be very, very pointed in what you're doing. If I wanted to do Midwest and I only wanted to do, March in the Midwest, I could double-click on the line here for March and do the same thing and make a group of March and Midwest. So I can be very pointed in when I make a group, much faster, much easier than trying to create a group in Goldmine using their builder. Rob?
Okay, and I'm sorry for moving the.
Okay.
Let's check and see what we've got for questions so far. And then I'm gonna come back again. We just have, I think, there's one question here. Can MasterMine for QuoteWorks create a report listing active quotes containing any of the large number of specific part numbers? Good question. Yes, it can. And I don't think we're going to be talking about MasterMine for QuoteWorks in this session, but the answer is yes, and so the questioner can just contact us and we'll show you how to do that. We'll show you how to do that on yours. Okay, so catching up in my list here, share reports with MasterMine users. We'll talk about sharing reports with non-MasterMine users and talk about date grouping. And our time is, we're a little bit behind, but I think we're going to be able to catch up here. So I'm going to switch back to, no, I'm not. Let's get back on here. Up. There we go. All right, so sharing reports. So a lot of people are who have MasterMine love the fact that they can create reports and share them with other users. And there's really two main ways to share reports. One is to just simply save your report someplace in a network location and tell another MasterMine user, here's where I saved that location to, and then that other user can go through the launch dialog and hit open and just navigate to where that file is and open it. That's one kind of the sort of manual way to share MasterMine reports. The other way, somewhat more automatic, is to go up here after you've created a report and set it up the way you want to, go up to the MasterMine menu, the Share Report ribbon item that essentially allows you to specify another Goldmine user into whose taskbar you will place this report. So let's say this pending activities sale report is a report that the sales manager created for his own purposes, but wants to share with the executive management of the company, so that the executive management can also look at and work with and do analysis of the sales funnel for the company. Well, what they can do is create this report, save it, choose whatever Goldmine user they want to share this with, and let's say we're going to share it with Nancy. Then choose which taskbar they want it to show up on in Goldmine, and I'll show you here in a moment how that looks in Goldmine, and name the item, and decide whether they want it to automatically refresh while it's opening and so on, and then save the report. You can either hit resave and link, which means save the workbook right this moment and put it and link it to that taskbar, or just simply link it to the taskbar because the report's already saved. So those are your options here. And the way that winds up looking on the Goldmine side is you have each user can have their own menu inside of Goldmine of pre-created reports. And this gets back to that whole idea about reusing reports rather than creating them every time you need them. Each one of these is a MasterMine report, which when you just click on it one time will pop open that report and you're just ready to go. There doesn't need to be any sort of a long learning process for regular users of MasterMine, for the regular sort of sub-users, to pop open MasterMine reports and start working with them. So that's what that's about. Then I was going to talk also about sharing with non-MasterMine users. So if you do this share report thing, obviously the user on the other end needs to also have a MasterMine share license. If you want to just simply take a snapshot of this report and send that to somebody as, let's say, an email attachment, that's what the snapshot button does here. This allows you to say, let's take this report that I'm on, and by the way, you can do a snapshot both as just another sheet, just take this pivot table and freeze it as another sheet in the same workbook, that's the default here, or freeze it and put it in its own Excel workbook, which when you hit the OK button, we'll just create that other workbook and put it in a place where you can simply attach it to, it'll actually ask you where you want to put it, and you put it in whatever place you can easily attach it to an email and send out that email. So this should reduce really rather dramatically the time that you would normally take to, let's say, create a bunch of reports that you're sending out to distributors, or maybe you are a distributor and you want to send it out to the principals of different kinds of things that you are selling. anytime you've got reports internally that you want to share with people who are external to your company, or at least external to MasterMind, you can do these snapshots and easily get those distributed. So that's sharing. And finally, I'm going to take a little time here to talk about date grouping. This is a topic that we could easily do an entire session on, and if people request it, I'll be happy to do it, but I'm going to cover in just a few minutes some key things relating to date grouping that's important for you to know. First off, I'm going to switch back over here in Excel. So this report that we did here, the pending activities sale report. Any report, like any report that involves pending or completed activities, MasterMind automatically groups the on date field. The on date field in Goldmine is the date of the history item, or the date of that the pending activity is scheduled to happen. It's a date that you have control over, meaning that as a user you can actually change it. Unlike, say, the creation date of the account record or the creation date of the history item, which are both dates that are stored by Goldmine and that you can do selecting and sorting against, but as a user you don't have control over what's in that. It's just the date that it's created, that's what's stamped on the record, and that's how it stays. So my initial point is the on date is already grouped, but it can be ungrouped and regrouped, and sometimes it's desirable to do that. I'm going to sort of demonstrate by positively grouping a field that's already in here. That's the create on field. So this is the create on. Remember, I'm going to show it here. It's a blue field, which another sort of tip to know is that the color of the fields indicates the table that the field comes from in Goldmine, which is very useful information if you think about it. Blue fields are contact level fields from contact 1. So in other words, so when I see create on and I know that it's blue, I know that that is the date that the record was created, that the account record was created in Goldmine, as opposed to, let's say, the date that that this particular activity item was created, which is a different kind of field, or a different field that we don't actually have in this query. I'm going to take the create on field and I'm going to group it. The purposes for which you might want to do this sort of thing might be, I'm interested in sales that are forecast for leads that were added within the last month or were added just this year. I recently did a custom report for somebody that wanted one that did exactly this. So the way that works is the create on field, of course, contains all the individual dates when records were added to this database. I'm going to clone this sheet so that I don't mess up something else, and to start with, I'm going to take out the year and month fields from the activities, and I'm going to put in the create on date, which is the date that the accounts were created. To do date grouping, I go to the MM Tools menu up here with that field selected, and I can choose date range. Now, you would accomplish the same thing if you right-click on a date field and go to, in the short menu, just go to group. This would accomplish almost exactly the same thing. It runs a dialog that allows you to take that date and group it in various useful ways. So the most obvious way that we might do that might be, let's say, to take years and months, to take this date and group it into years and months. And for the moment, I'm going to leave these boxes checked at the top, and the dates that are up here are this is the earliest date that appears in my data. This is the latest date, or the last date that appears in my data. And that's how those are going to stay here for a moment. I'll come back and discuss those settings here in a moment. But to start with here, I'm just going to take the create on field and I'm going to group it by years and months, and you'll see the effect here. It's going to create a years field and a months field. I'll actually do days as well, so we can see those sort of clearly. So I'm going to have all three, so it's going to create 3 fields out of this one field. Does that very quickly. So we still have the individual dates. We have the months that were grouped into the months that they fall into, and those months are grouped into the years that they fall into. That now allows me to do all sorts of settings in my report, whether I'm going to use this for filtering or just as part of the display here. So we still have the same number of lines that we had before here, but if I take out the detail, for instance, of the actual dates that they were created on, now the months are all rolled up, so I'm actually seeing my sales by the month, by actually the source month of the leads that those sales are set to go to. So hopefully you understand the difference between this report, which is not a forecast by the month that the sale will happen, but rather a forecast by the month that we got the lead, which for marketing purposes, for sales purposes, actually for a lot of purposes, is another useful view of your forecast data. So that's sort of raw grouping of years and months. I'm going to pull up that dialog again and talk just about these settings at the top. So by default, because of the fact that it chooses the earliest date and the latest date as the starting and end points of our grouping, you actually see in the report here everything that's in the database as far as forecast sales. Another way to do this is to set a starting point that eliminates earlier years. Now, I could have, or earlier sets of data. It would be easy enough with the grouping that I have to just turn off the years 2009 and 2010 and have everything else just show me from January 2011 onward. And that works great as long as I want my starting point to be a regular, calendar date. But maybe I want to do a much narrower kind of a breakdown. Maybe I'm interested in, let's say, just the past fiscal year. So maybe I only want to show from July 1st, 2012 to June 30th, 2013. So, and then notice that as I enter dates in here, the auto becomes unchecked, which means we're going to be actually using these dates as our starting and stopping things here. And we'll say OK. And the result is, well, one result is that we wind up with our years fields off of there. So I'm going to pull them back in again. So there's the years, and the months are going to be under M. So here's my fiscal year 2012 through 2013, and let me see if I refresh this, what changes. So I guess we only had data up through October of 2012. Oh, I see. Is it because of this setting? A little puzzled, but I'm thinking I should have some data that's below that, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I think you get the message anyway, or you get the point about how that grouping works. So if I wanted to actually pull together, sort of roll together all the things that come before the period that I'm interested in the report for, that still shows me those, or I can just go in and turn those off. Say everything before then, don't show it, and then my report would only be that segment. Now that's one way of doing a fiscal year. Chris is going to talk to you about another way of handling fiscal years that's actually more flexible than the way I did this. But we'll come to that here in a moment. I think that's all I wanted to cover, Chris, on date grouping for now. If people are interested in learning more about date grouping, by all means, ask us questions or send us inquiries, and we'll either include it in another one of these user events, or we can do them one-on-one.
I did want to make a comment. One of the things is when you do the grouping, it comes out as just years. To make it a little clearer,
right.
Sometimes you may want to relabel this to create on years or some other way of keeping track of that, because if you do some other I'm just going to abbreviate it here, but if you do some other grouping, you may end up with multiple months, multiple years in there, and of course that's not valid, so it'll just be years 1, years 2, or
and you won't even,
like that.
right, so you won't even know what date the year field refers to, which is right. Very good point, Chris. Yep.
Also, that also shows us another thing is the fact that you can relabel in Excel. You can relabel a field and change it to an additional, and whatever name that you want it to make it something that's more useful to you. So, and that's very easy. You saw how I did it. I just copied it. I clicked on it, came up here, and retyped what I wanted in there, and that relabels the name to whatever it is that I wanted it to be. Okay?
Excellent.
So
Good point.
let's move on. We're going to talk about several different things here again. We talked a little bit about snapshot already as an archive method, but we're going to talk about another archive method. We're going to talk about adding fields and deleting fields, and we're going to talk about fiscal year to start with real quick. So, Rob, if you'll take me back.
Yes. And we can just delete this sheet.
I'm going to come back here to our original sheet that we started with. And keeping in mind that I'm going to make some real change to this, I'm going to clone this, and I'm going to start. So now I've got another original down here, but it's the same, exactly the same as the one I started with. And I'm going to make some changes to this report. Right now, what we've got here is a standard calendar year. And I want to do some comparisons from year to year, but I want to compare them based on the month that I'm currently in. And I'm going to use the fiscal year capabilities that MasterMine has to accomplish that. So I have to have, in order to do this, I have to have a field that is ungrouped. And since I'm going to do it on the OnDate field, and I've already grouped OnDate, I'm going to add a new field to the report. Simply clicking here, I can choose the field that I want to add. In this case, it's going to be OnDate. And I'm going to rename this field. Since I already have an OnDate field in the report, I'm going to call it OnDate2. And I can put it in the report anywhere I want it in the report, but I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to put it, I'm going to put it right after the original OnDate, if I can get my mouse to work. Not holding my tongue correctly. So I've now created a new OnDate field, and it's called OnDate2. And I'm going to use a MasterMine function, which is the fiscal year function, which is basically doing the grouping that Rob did manually before, only slightly different. I'm going to start my year as July 1st, and the report writer, or excuse me, the generator will automatically give it a new name as OnDate fiscal year, OnDate2 fiscal year. And so now I've created a new fiscal year, and I can use this in my report to break out. And you can see that.
Chris, why don't you take out the one that the one in column B, so it's not visually confusing. The one we grouped, the OnDate2 field.
Yeah. Let me pull that out of there so it's a little clearer. You can now see that 2013 started in January and went to June of calendar year 2013. And then 2014 now starts July 1st of 2013. So I've created a fiscal year record for my report. I'm going to pull this guy out of here. And I'm going to take and I'm going to bring this guy up in here so that I can now, whoops.
Yeah, you got a lot of date. You have a lot of date fields there, data fields.
Yeah.
So what you'll need to do to simplify it is rather than do just remove those fields that we don't want from the data area.
Yeah, I'm going to pull some of these fields out of here. So I'm going to just pull out several of these fields so that I can.
And this is a distinction while he's doing this that is important to remember. You can have columns because you've got a column field like he's creating here by putting the fiscal year field into the columns. That's one way to make columns happen. Another way is to have multiple items in your data area, as we were showing here with the forecast. So in our data area, we were summarizing both by the count of records, which is the field that he wound up leaving in here. I find it also pretty useful usually to have the dollar amounts of the sale when you're looking at a forecast report. Potential amount is the one you want, Chris. Potential, not probable. in the data area down, there you go. So so now you've got really three columns, three items within the column area, which are the 3 fiscal years, and you have 2 items in the data area, one of which is the count of records, and the other is the dollar amounts of the records. This is a somewhat complex presentation, but you see what we wind up with here is month by month the ability to compare across fiscal years. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, and if you guys have questions about this, please post them to the question box. I'm glad to show you. But basically what I'm doing here is I'm very quickly showing a comparison of my years. However, in a fiscal year, January is not the first month. July is. And so what I'm going to do in this particular fiscal year at least, what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually sort this report so that I get the correct order of my months. I'm just going to pull it up here. Pardon me if I'm a little slow doing this. It's in the remote session. It's kind of hard for me to get it right on the exact right spot. I always have trouble with that. I apologize. But I will try to do it as quickly as I can.
I think you're doing pretty well here.
But you can see I can manually sort the items in the pivot table simply by selecting them and dragging them to where I want them in my sort. So now I have my proper sort: July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. So now I can do a better job of comparing fiscal year, July to July, August to August, and I can see not only that what my sales comparison is. It looks like I'm growing in units, but I'm also growing in dollar amounts here, at least in that month. This month it looks like I'm going down. But
let's throw in one more.
Using fiscal.
Let's throw in one more tip here since it came up. The formatting on your potential amount there, some of them have decimals and some don't. That's and if they don't have decimals, they don't show up there. Another feature up there on the MM Tools taskbar, MM Tools menu rather, is down here, easy ways to format fields. And note that if you use this method as opposed to the traditional Excel formatting method, you could go through and you would have to format all of the cells normally under Excel. Here on the MasterMine MM Tools bar, you can just choose currency, for example, as your setting for one item within that whole field, and it formats the entire field. So everything is now formatted the same way. You can add the cents if you want to, or take them back out, and so on. And that makes it easier for that comparison that Chris was talking about to go from year to year if you don't have the different decimal places on the two that you're looking at.
Good point. Very good point. Another thing that we have in our list was we were going to talk about the archiving of a workbook. So he showed you one way, using Snapshot to archive the workbook. But another way to do that is to come in here, get the workbook exactly the way I wanted the workbook to be, and I can come in and I can disable the refresh on open function here. I can even disable data refresh completely if that's what I want to do. And that way, this book is frozen in time. The next time I open it, it's going to have exactly the same data in it that it has today. And I would just save it and then save the workbook. Now, keep in mind, most workbooks default to refreshing on open, so you're always working with constant current data. But if you want to do a quarter-end report that's frozen in time, that's one way to do it, to archive the report so that you've got the information exactly as it was at the time you created the report and saved it. We also talked about adding and deleting. We did a real quick add here. So we go to MasterMine. When you're on a pivot table, go to the MasterMine Tools, and we added a field. I can also delete a field. I select the field that I want to delete. I click the delete button, and it's gone away. So it's very easy to get the drill down the way that you want it exactly. Say, Rob talked about the fact that some people, when they do a drill down, there's too many items in the drill down sheet. They don't like to have all those items. Well, I can delete any of those that I don't need. It's not something we advise you do lightly, but if it's what you want, you can use that method to delete the field from your pivot table.
delete them or move them, yeah. Or, and actually my recommendation would be to use the, let me go back to a short here. If in this drill down sheet you'd really, there's a certain ones that you're most interested in and the other ones you're not interested in, it's easy enough to resort them as well. You can use the feature to sort the columns here. This locally within the workbook does the same thing that the sorting mechanism that Chris talked about over here does for you. So sorting the fields here determines what order your fields are in columns for your drill down. Sorting them here does the same thing after the workbook already exists. And you can just take the ones that you're least interested in and move those over to the right and just have it and save that change. And then from then on, whenever that report is drilled through, they would be in the order that you want. Let's go back and check. So this is we're doing pretty well here. We're heading into the end of our hour. We've got 4 items left to cover. Or actually we've got 3 because Chris talked about manually sorting the field items within the fiscal year before. So charts, Updater for non-master Goldmine users, and linking data outside Goldmine reports. Or sorry, linking data into Goldmine reports from outside Goldmine. So we'll take those in order here. Charts. I'll switch back to Excel here. And so charts actually are very quick. This is our same report that we've been working with here up until now. Month by month forecast by user ID. Making a chart is very simple. Go to Options inside of the pivot table toolbar. Hit Pivot Chart. Choose which type of chart you want to make. You can have columns, you can have pie charts, and so on. Hit OK, and this actually will allow you to even within there, choose from a wide selection of display formats. There's some very nice ways of displaying information inside of Excel. And that chart, basically, that chart is linked to the data in the table. So if you were to, for example, take out the months and only have a year by year, that affects what's in the chart. So keep in mind that this, in a way, this is like a dashboard, but a far more flexible dashboard than you're familiar with already. More flexible in the sense that the end user can actually make changes to the format very easily, and again, save it however they want to come back to it later on. So that's charting. Sorry, I forgot the ones here. Okay, so Updater for non-master Goldmine users. That's what I'm just going to talk about. So I think most of the users on here probably are familiar with our Updater application. That is it gives you the ability, of course, to make changes in Goldmine, make changes in Excel, and push those changes over to Goldmine. So from any drill down sheet, change the dates of forecasted sales if you want to move the obsolete ones up to future months, for example, or if you want your sales reps to go through their forecast methodically but without taking too much time, and reset the codes in there, or reset the probabilities as they change over time without having to go through record by record by record inside of Goldmine. This is a fast, easy way to mass manage either small or large amounts of data inside of Goldmine, and to do it very visually. So that's Updater. One of the things we've been asked for is Updater by default only works if you are a master user in Goldmine. In other words, as a user, you have master rights in Goldmine. Sometimes that's not what's desirable within the organization. You want, for example, in the example that I was just talking about, where you want your sales reps to be actively managing their forecast, but you don't want them wasting a lot of time going back to old forecast records and just updating dates or updating probabilities. If your sales reps only have a share user license of MasterMine, that's okay. There is actually a trick, and I'm not going to tell it on this because we don't necessarily want everybody who doesn't want it to who doesn't want their sales reps doing this, to have them start doing Updater. But if you have an Updater license, there is a trick that we can give you that will essentially turn on the ability for those users who are licensed to use Updater, but who are only share users who are only non-master users in Goldmine, to turn on Updater. So just let us know if you'd like for us, if you'd like to do that. It's a very quick 1-minute thing. Okay, I'm going to go back, and I've got one more thing to share, and then we're going to do questions. So if you've got any questions on any of the things that we talked about today, please go ahead and put them into the GoToWebinar dialog. And I'm going to talk about this last topic here, and then I'll come to the questions. So link outside data into Goldmine reports. This is something that people really very often want to be able to do. I've got some information in Goldmine relating to sales. It's usually the activity, the sources of the leads. It's the marketing activity that was done to generate it as a possible sale. And then at some point, the process gets handed over to an accounting system, or gets handed over to QuoteWorks, or an ERP system, or a production system. It gets the actual activity that you do with that customer is no longer handled in Goldmine, and so there's no more information. But maybe you want to track, for pretty obvious reasons, let's say your completed sales, which are in your accounting system with the dollar amounts and everything, all the way back to the sources of the leads that resulted in those completed sales, which are in your Goldmine system. You don't have the source in your account system, and you don't have the final dollar amounts in your Goldmine system. Well, if you want to report across the two of them, we can do that, as long as the data is in a similar form. So if, for example, your accounting system is a SQL-based system, and the database, in the simplest scenario, the database for it is actually on the same SQL server that your Goldmine is on, we can easily do reports across the two of them, and that is just a manual adjustment for the report that you create, and we can do that for you online just as part of your Mastermind support. Not the technical support, but through the support packs. So let us know about if you want to do that. So we've just got a couple of minutes left, and I'm going to take whatever questions have come in. I want to thank you all, by the way, for joining us this morning for this whirlwind tour of tips and tricks for Mastermind. I hope you find them very useful. Please continue to post questions for us, and we'll finish up with the questions that we have out here. How did we get pivot table tools again for the charts? So let me switch back into Excel. I think that actually the question was, how do I get that pivot table toolbar? So if I select a cell that's not on the pivot table, there is no pivot table menu up here. If I select a cell that's on the pivot table, then the pivot table tools menu shows up. It's called a contextual menu in Excel, and that menu is turned off by Excel if you don't have a cell selected on a pivot table. So when you select on there, then go to Options, then your pivot chart button is available to you. So question, can you now use Updater to make changes to email notes field? I think we're talking about the email, the notes field of the email address record inside of Goldmine. And the answer is yes, we have done the work to set that up. Whether that is in the current build of MasterMine, I can't tell you, but I can tell you if it's not, it'll be there within a day or two. So the work has been done, updating notes within, updating simple notes from inside of Updater. And by simple notes, I mean the ones that are in email address records, consup records, for those of you who are familiar with those, are profile records, history, or well, I'll mention them actually separately. Email address records, consup or additional contact, supplementary contact records, those have notes as well. And in some notes that are at the opportunity level in opportunities. Those can all be updated using Updater very simply. And I'm putting those in a group because those are all notes fields that are not formatable with HTML in Goldmine. Then there are notes fields that are formatable by HTML, namely history notes and pending notes. MasterMind can also update those, but there's a caution with that, which is that the HTML can get a little bit funky, or the formatting of the rows in there can get a little bit funky because of the way Excel handles returns, carriage returns versus the others. So that's the only way that can get funky. So if you are updating, well, and the other way is, of course, that one of the things that MasterMind does is in order to present it in Excel, it strips out all the HTML stuff. So when you go and use Updater on notes under history and calendar, note that you will be losing the any HTML formatting that you have on those notes. And then finally, there's the other kind of notes in Goldmine. These are the notes that are, for example, the Contact One notes here. And these notes, as you probably are aware, within Goldmine is not one. It's not one flow, one single flow of notes. They're actually all individual notes, and these are notes that you are not able to update with MM Updater. So sorry for that long-winded answer, but notes is always an interesting topic for people, and I'm happy to give people more individual answers to your specific concerns related to notes. But that's what I've got for you right now, and that is all the time we have. I don't see any other questions have come up in the GoToWebinar dialogue. If you don't feel that we've answered any of the questions adequately or any of these topics you're curious about to know more, please give us a call. You can talk to either Chris or me. I will put up Chris's slide here. This is the phone number where you can reach Chris to do custom report writing for you, to do Goldmine data management work for you. Chris is our expert and very fast at doing that kind of stuff, or to just answer your how-to questions about how to do things. That's the toll-free number along with Chris's extension. So once again, thank you very much, Chris, for joining us today. Do you have any other closing words?
No, just give us a call if you have questions or needs. We're glad to work with you anytime.
Okay, thanks all for coming to our end user webinar. We will have another one the third Thursday of August, and we look forward to seeing you then.